Welcome to Alpha Wealth. I'm Mallory Hoff alongside David Wilkinson. Over the next half hour, we'll discuss planning for a successful retirement and why so many people in this country are missing the mark.
Here's what's in store. First, we'll talk about taxes. They could be the most critical part of your retirement, but they're often overlooked. Then in 15 and 15, we'll discuss income, risk, and growth strategies, plus how to approach market volatility. That and more ahead.
Welcome to Alpha Wealth with Tom Fortino. Tom is the president of Chicago's Alpha Wealth Group, a firm focused on helping prepare people for a successful retirement. Tom is also the popular radio and podcast show host of the Alpha Wealth Hour. Now it's time for Alpha Wealth.
As we begin our conversation today, Tom, I've heard you say that the goal is to stop worrying once we get to our retirement years. I want to start the show by talking about how the appropriate tax strategies factor into that.
Well, Mallory, tax planning is critical when you get into retirement. I mean, I think this is when you're the most vulnerable, right? Because when you're pulling money, let's just use the biggest bucket, typically the 401ks, the IRAs. Every penny is taxable when you take it out. So you have to always ask the question, okay, how much is it going to be taxable when I take this out? Then you have to say, okay, how much is it going to affect my Social Security? Because it's used to determine how much of your Social Security is taxable. It's used to determine how much your Medicare premium is going to be. And then you have to say, okay, do I have a withdrawal strategy to minimize taxes? Because once that starts happening, you know, you could be giving away tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime.
Which means if you have the right tax strategies in place, you could potentially save that type of money. If there's all these different options and all these different things that retirees actually need to consider, why on earth are tax strategies so often overlooked when they're on the doorstep of retirement?
Well, I think there's a couple reasons. One is, of course, the complexity of it. I mean, even Einstein said the most difficult thing in the world to understand is the income tax,
and he was a smart guy.
Yeah, he was a smart guy. So it's very difficult on a personal level because, you know, who enjoys the tax season? Who enjoys preparing taxes? We're going to talk about tax planning. But, you know, the other thing is, on the other hand, if you're working with somebody, you want to work with someone, whether it's a CPA or it's an advisor. You don't want an answer of, well, go talk to somebody else.
No.
Right? So that's important too. You want to be getting answers from someone you're working with. Hopefully you're working with the right person. So there's a number of reasons why this can be overlooked. And it's unfortunate because, again, it's detrimental to your long-term plan, especially in retirement.
Big picture, none of us has a crystal ball, of course. But how does the future of taxes play into this conversation?
Well, you know, I always talk about doing forward tax planning. Now, I don't know what the tax rates are going to be in the future, and I'm glad we're sitting down because technically tax rates are at 40-year lows. I know that may not seem unbelievable. When Reagan took office, the highest tax bracket was 78%.
Yes, it was.
I know it seems unbelievable. But there's opportunities now, I believe, as I said, forward tax planning to start doing things like Roth conversions, Roth contributions. And there's other ideas, tax efficiency, which I talked about, to get to a point where you're getting more and more of your income tax-free.
Retirees, I've seen a study that talks about them actually being terrified of taxes. Do you support that notion that they should be terrified as they get ready to retire and that taxes are on the horizon? Or could they potentially be calm about this situation?
Well, it comes back to the same thing. I don't care if we're talking about market risk or other risks that we deal with, the threat of rising tax rates, and it's this uncertainty. That's what causes this anxiety. You have a conversation with anybody about taxes. I was having a conversation recently with someone about one of my clients that received a letter from the IRS. Man, they were very, very upset. Now, we walked through that and we talked through that. But the point is, you know, if you have the right advisor and you're doing the right planning and you understand what's going on, you know, as best as you can, that's going to reduce the stress level and you're going to start to take control of your taxes rather than have the taxes control you.
How often do you find that individuals or couples think they will magically or organically find themselves in a lower tax bracket during those retirement years?
I think that's a common belief that we're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Look, I don't know if that's true or not. You need to understand where you're going to be and do the math, and that's something we do. But the point is, in most cases, you're not in a lower tax bracket. And the other thing is, what happens if tax rates increase in the future? That's why we try to mitigate some of that threat. And so when we get more money to tax-free and you can start that process, there's typically a sweet spot, which I call when you retire, where you can start doing things like Roth conversions and Roth IRAs. The bottom line, some of the problems I talked about before, think about it. When you take money out of a Roth, it's completely tax-free. It doesn't tax your Social Security. It doesn't impact your Medicare premiums. It never goes on your 1040. There's no required minimum distribution, and it goes to your spouse and children tax-free. Maybe we should be considering some of these things. So regardless of what the tax brackets are in the future, it doesn't matter because our tax rate is zero on these types of assets.
I think that's what's encouraging. And you used the word control just a few moments ago. Retirees actually have the opportunity to take control of a very dire situation and flip it to their benefit.
Absolutely. It's a little frustrating to me and disheartening, I would say, because I go through this every week. When I sit down with people, they call in, they send me emails, and they're just not getting the answers. And, you know, that's what I said. When you understand it, and again, as I said, when there's that uncertainty and what can I do, there's always things that you can do. I believe that, whether, you know, as I said, whether we're talking about moving money to tax-free, whether we talk about qualified charitable deductions, whether you talk about all these different options that you have, tax efficiency, owning the right things in the right bucket. Again, it goes on, and just things that we can be doing. And it's, as I said, it's unfortunate when people aren't aware of these ideas.
Absolutely wonderful insight and guidance to start our show today, and the time to act is now.
Indeed, take control of your tax situation. Today, Tom has a great offer for you. Right now, for the first 5 callers with a portfolio of $500,000 or greater, he's offering a complimentary retirement plan just for you. This will allow Tom to sit down with you personally and provide you with a roadmap, analyzing where you are right now, and then discuss your best steps to really get ready for a successful retirement. The number to call right now is 630-491-8558. That's 630-491-8558.
Today we're breaking down the retirement planning process, and when it comes to maximizing wealth, a retirement plan is absolutely critical. Tom, let's talk about why.
Well, you know, if you talk about a plan, I don't care if it's retirement, I don't care if it's a career, I don't care if it's going on a trip, you've got to have a plan because that's going to have a direct correlation to your success rate, period. So we need to have a plan. I don't care if you're building a bridge, building a car, building whatever, you have to build a retirement plan, and that's going to dictate your success. I just believe that.
I'm on the same page, and when it comes to that retirement plan, what should it include?
Well, I'm going to make it really simple, and I always say simple is great, especially when it works. And so we're looking at, I always call it the 5 pillars or the 5 pieces of your plan. This is it. 1, have income you can't outlive. Most important, we hear it time and time again, of course. 2, minimize taxes so you get more of that income. 3, you have an investment plan that's smart, strategic, and it meets your risk tolerance and your objectives. 4, have an asset protection plan. You're an asset. How do you protect from unforeseen events? And 5, the 5th piece, have an estate and legacy piece to control the assets during your lifetime and make sure they go flow to your children and grandchildren in the most efficient manner. That's it, 5 pieces, and that's where you start.
And they have to work together.
Have to work together.
Top of your list, generating income that can't be outlived. What are people missing in terms of income planning?
I think one of the biggest things is we have to discern between assets and income, right? It's not about a pile of money.
No.
Right? Because money, you know, there's that adage, hey, the difference between income and savings is savings can run out. Right?
Perfectly
income doesn't run out. So when I define income, I say it's income that comes, income is something that comes in regardless of age. I don't care if you're 85, 95, or 105. It comes in regardless of the market, whether it's up or down, and it comes in regardless of what you have in savings. If it meets those three criteria, you've got income, and that's the difference.
I want to talk market risk real quick. When it comes to FOMO, fear of missing out on potential market gains, what is the potential price tag on that?
Well, I mean, we see the market. Look, you can look at the market over time. You know, on average, and this has been done, Ned Davis Research, other research companies say, on average, the market is going to drop 10% on average every year. It's going to drop 5% 3 times a year. And there's times it's going to drop more than that. We know it comes. How do you react to that? And it's even more important because when you get into retirement, I can't pick the year it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But if you have a down year and you're just retiring and you're drawing money, it's tough to recover from that in those instances. And so emotions get in the way too, and we do things we probably don't want to do, and we pull out at the wrong times. That's why people typically underperform. So it's important we understand our investment plan. That's one of those pillars.
Tom, you've been doing this for a long time. How often do you find people think they have a handle on the amount of risk they're taking on? They think they're taking on the appropriate amount of risk for their age and stage. You take a quick look and realize very quickly they're not.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple issues there. When we take a look at what you own, often you're just not really sure. This is not to be critical. It's just we're busy with life. We're busy with family. We're doing things. How many of us have the time to really sit down and analyze what do we own and what's the risk levels? And so that's something we do. When someone comes in, I want you to understand what you own. Not only understand what you own, it's almost this cookie cutter approach. I see, you know, or these target date funds, and is it really appropriate for you? You need to understand that, and then also, again, understand where you own those assets and what type of buckets, tax efficient, as it comes back to tax deferred, tax free, and after tax monies.
Paint a picture for me. A big loss when you are in retirement or quickly approaching retirement. What is the reality? What could that look like?
Well, again, if you're relying on your investments, and that gets back to this whole having a complete plan.
Yes.
If you've got the income, you're not relying on, and I'm going to make a statement. I believe this. If you have an income plan and you have consistent, dependable income coming in, those paychecks, you're less reliant on the investments, your risk comes down, right? And so that's so important to, again, having that complete plan. And so if you're relying on your investments, the market's down 20%, let me ask you, how good are you going to feel pulling out 10% or 5% when it's already down? That's a tough one, and it's emotions, and that's tough. It's really tough, and then you make bad decisions. You know, it's emotions get in the way all too often.
That's right. Another reason to work with the right team. Tom, thank you so much. We
you.
so appreciate it. More to come, but first, Tom has a great offer for you. Right now, for the first 5 callers with a portfolio of $500,000 or greater, he's offering a complimentary retirement plan just for you. This will allow Tom to sit down with you personally and provide you with a roadmap analyzing where you are right now and discuss your best steps to really get ready for a successful retirement. The number to call, 630-491-8558. Once again, that number, 630-491-8558.
The clock is ticking towards your retirement. Time now for 15 and 15. 15 questions in 15 seconds for you, Mr. Fortino. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Question number 1. How much money will you need to retire? According to a survey, more Americans than ever believe the magic number is $1 million. So, Tom, is that the magic number?
Well, I'm going to start out by saying there is no magic number.
Okay.
That's the problem. This can really be a trap because it's not about the number you have in investments, it's about the income you have coming in. Those are the numbers. In other words, what about Social Security? Are you making the right decisions there? Your pensions, are you making the right decisions there? If you're going to use your investments, how have you structured those to create income without going into principal? And in some cases, you may want to use annuities, again, to create income. Again, not about a big number. It's not about a pile of money. It's about creating income you can't outlive.
Powerful answer right there. And we want to avoid traps in retirement. Question number 2. It's understandable to have some concerns, perhaps even some fears, when it comes to using our savings in retirement. So what can be done to spend with confidence?
Well, you know, this is reasonable to have fears. You think about it. You've been saving, you've accumulated, and then all of a sudden you get into retirement. I got to start pulling money out of my investments. They've done a lot of studies, and it shows it's very difficult for your mind to adjust to that, and it's unfortunate. But again, it gets back, David, it's having the income. Because once you have the income, you know those paychecks and the rhythm of money coming into your bank account every month, then you have license to spend and you have a lot more confidence, and guess what? The stress level comes down a great deal.
And then you add that lobster tail at dinner. Everybody
Absolutely.
wins. Question number 3. What if I told you 45% of people who do not have a financial advisor believe the typical cost for one is between 5 and 15% of their assets? That's expensive. If your advisor's charging you that, what's your advice?
Well, it's certainly time to move on from that advice.
Maybe sprint out of that office?
I mean, my God, that's just crazy. But here's what I'll say about that. When you're talking about fees, you know, if your advisor can't say, this is what you're being charged. I have that question a lot of times. When I ask people, they come into the office and say, do you know what you're currently paying? They say, you know, I really don't know. And I'll say, if you ask your advisor, sometimes they'll even get an answer, don't worry about it, which is not a good answer. So you got to know what your fees are. They're important to your overall plan.
You worked hard for your money. Want to know how it's working hard for
know.
you. Don't get overcharged. Question number 4, let's do some taxes. A recent survey found that over 30% of every dollar a retiree spends goes to pay taxes. Tom, are we really looking at nearly a third of our money going to Uncle Sam?
Well, whether it's a third or it's 1/4, it's 50, you know,
adds up.
It's unfortunate. Why would you want to give away 20 or 30% of your income?
I don't.
You got to have a tax plan. Again, if this is not something that's being incorporated into your retirement plan, you're giving away money in some cases voluntarily. You got to do something about tax planning. You got to do things to keep more money in your pocket. It's that simple.
Worth repeating what you said at the top of the show. If you don't have a plan, it could cost you tens, if not hundreds
Absolutely.
of thousands of dollars over the course of your retirement. That's a lot of money. We're going to stick with taxes right here. Question number 5, is it possible to receive retirement income from our life savings without having to pay income taxes?
You know, it is actually. I call that forward tax planning. It's maybe not going to happen today because there's a couple things. Number one, what are the withdrawal strategies? Am I taking out of my tax deferred? Certainly if I take out of a Roth, that's tax free. That isn't taxable. You know, I have some clients where we worked on it over a few years, repositioning money, where they're at a point where they're getting $100,000, $120,000 of income tax free.
sir. And then that goes back to spending with confidence. All
then
the
you're
more.
spending with confidence.
Get two lobster tails at
it's
dinner
all
that
coming
night,
together,
right?
Right, plus an appetizer.
Yes, absolutely. Love the tax strategies and what it can do. Question number 6. Obviously, as we approach retirement, our thinking can change. So, Tom, is it more important to avoid big losses or focus on maximizing growth?
Well, you can have a balance here. It
I like that.
It's not an either or, right? I've said it before. You know, it's important to have growth in the market. It's supposed to have exposure because, you know, again, you're going to be in retirement 10, 20, 30 years or more. And we've got to deal with inflation.
Yes,
we've got to
we
deal
do.
with healthcare. We've got to deal with all these things. So that can be part of it, but you can also have that protection piece. And that's how we design portfolios or design plans for our clients. Again, have exposure to growth, but also try to protect some of it too. It's all about balance.
Absolutely. Protected growth strategies. Chance to get ahead in retirement. Question number 7. Who doesn't love guaranteed money? Well, annuities are a vehicle that can do that for your income. But why do you believe people are so hesitant to engage in the annuity conversation?
You know, this is a tough question, David. I think a lot of it is because there's misinformation out there. You know what? You can turn on the radio, you can listen to some podcast or whatever it might be. One person says they're the greatest thing in the world. One person says they're the worst thing in the world. Neither one is true. You just have to understand the benefits they provide and if it's right for you. An annuity can give you guaranteed lifetime income. If you're married, joint guaranteed lifetime income. And to the extent you don't go through it, it goes to your children and grandchildren. Not a bad thing, but you have to find out how they work and are they right for you.
Yeah, you want to know how your money's working for you. What's working for us? The first 7 questions of 15 and 15, more to come. But first, we're going to pause that clock. Tom has a great offer right now for you at home. Right now, for the first 5 callers with a portfolio of $500,000 or greater, he's offering a complimentary retirement plan just for you. This will allow Tom and his team to sit down with you personally and provide you with a roadmap, analyzing where you are right now, and then discuss your best steps to really get ready for a successful retirement. The number to call right now is 630-491-8558. That's 630-491-8558. Back on the clock we go. Question number 8 of 15 and 15. We've worked decades to get to retirement. We want to travel, see the world, do things with our families. So how can people go about optimizing their retirement lifestyle?
Well, again, it comes back to that income plan, David.
Love it.
Because once you have the income coming in, you know, we've seen these studies where people have a tendency not to spend the money because they don't have the income. And guess what? They miss out on these, you know, these family events, or they don't do the things they want to do. Now they're down the road. And unfortunately, they think, I should have done this while I could have, and they didn't. So that's why it's so critical to have that income plan, because that's going to allow you to do the things you want to do and enjoy life and enjoy your retirement.
Let's have a regret-free
simple.
retirement.
I
Sign me
agree.
up for that.
Absolutely.
All right, we talked about fees a little bit earlier, but what about hidden fees? I've heard them compared to termites just eating away at your retirement plan. What can those hidden fees do to your retirement savings if you're not dialed in with them?
Well, I mean, you need to know your fees because, you know, it's taking away from your net gains. And every year, that's more money that you're not having growing in your, whether it's taxes, which I would call and argue it's a fee.
Yes.
But these other things that
I
are
agree.
fees. Again, anytime these things are, that's money you're never going to get back. That's money that's never going to grow in your account. That's money that's never going to go to your children and grandchildren. So it's critical we understand the fees that we're paying in our retirement accounts or in all investments in our overall in our plan.
They can add up quickly. Question number 10, 401ks. Lots of people have them. Lots of people might rely on them for income in retirement. But how common is it for parts of your 401k to actually be underperforming?
Well, you know, you have to remember, when you have a 401k plan, it's a great thing. Look, I'm a fan of systematic contributions. I'm a fan of 401k plans. But you've got to understand, you're limited to the investments inside there. It even becomes, to me, more problematic when you're dealing with Roth 401ks because you don't have as many opportunities for growth. And this is tax-free, the tax-free part of your 401k. Hey, there's in-service rollovers. Those are opportunities. You should call your 401k provider, see if you can do those things, which allows you to move the money while you're still working, so now you have more investment options. That's just one idea, and there's many more.
That's a victory in retirement. Question number 11, once upon a time, pensions were standard. You collected Social Security, and a few mutual funds and bonds carried you to retirement. But Tom, how have the rules of retirement planning changed?
Where do you start? I mean, you know, you remember when you're growing up, your grandparents, maybe even your parents, you know, they had a pension, a house, a bank account. That was it. Well, that's changed dramatically. We know pensions are a thing of the past for most people. So the onus is on us to create that retirement plan. Obviously, we're living longer too. That's another issue we have to deal with. So it's critical now more than ever because it falls on us to create that plan. And so we just have to be careful. And that's why it's so important is we've talked about having a plan, having a complete plan. So now when we go into retirement, that 20, 30 years in retirement, we're feeling good, we have very less stress, and we're on our way.
I like that. Question number 12, we've discussed that really being ready for retirement is both a mental and a financial question. So how many people really know if they're actually ready for retirement?
You know, most don't. I mean, I think some of the numbers show that. You know, you got to start with, like you said, there's two components, the financial and the emotional. Look, let's first get that financial piece in place. Because if I can solve that, now I can work on, hey, am I ready? Look, this is something that until you do it, like anything in life, you're not going to know. And when you get into retirement. So I have those conversations with clients and say, it's the greatest thing I do. Some people, they can continue to work, but you got to run the numbers. You got to test your plan. And that's what we do at the Alpha Wealth Group. At least we can start with, hey, you're in a position where now you can retire. You don't have to worry financially. Now let's work on the other parts and make sure you enjoy it emotionally.
And remember, if your plan works on paper, has a chance to in real life. So test those numbers. Question number 13, focusing in on long-term care. What can people do to prepare for that without having to buy some huge insurance policy?
Well, long-term care, that's part of that protection piece I talk about in the 5 pillars of your plan. And certainly this can be it can be detrimental to your plan. Devastating, I should say, 10, 12,000. I've had these conversations with clients where they're coming out of pocket that much. Now, the long-term care industry and the insurance industry, to their credit, there is some credit here to be given.
Let's do it.
They've evolved. So there's life insurance policies that you can use that now pay your benefits during your life and can leave something to your children and grandchildren or your spouse. There's annuities that now will create income and maybe increase that income if you have long-term illness. So there's a lot of different ways to approach it that didn't exist many years ago. I've been doing this a long time. So it's something you need to find out. I think you deserve to know what your options are with this potential catastrophic event.
Yeah, they can potentially cost more than taxes throughout your retirement. Can absolutely wipe out your savings. Question number 14, there are always going to be strategies that people can use to plan for retirement. Lots of advisors believe in lots of different approaches. But what about buy and hold? Is that still a valuable strategy?
Well, I don't want to abandon buy and hold. Look, if you own Amazon, if you own, Apple, if you own these certain stocks, Costco, Walmart, am I going to tell you to sell them? Probably not. But you can have a core portfolio and you can have long-term holdings, and maybe you have a dividend portfolio that's creating dividends. But then also you want to take advantage of what's happening in this market. We do that at our firm. What sectors do you think are going to outperform? So you want to have a balance here. You can have some core holdings that you may hold a little longer, long-term, but you also want to have that piece of your plan that's going to take advantage of the upside growth and what's happening in the market so you can try to outperform.
That's what we're looking at, outperformance.
If you can,
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. All right, final question at 15 and 15, cryptocurrency. What is your advice for people that walk into your office and say, Tom, I want to put a whole bunch of my nest egg into crypto?
Well, if you're saying a whole bunch of your nest egg, I'm going to say no.
No, okay.
Very, very careful. Here's what I would say. If you want to have some exposure to cryptocurrency, just like certain things that you may own, whether it's gold or some other assets, I'm not averse to saying you can have that. It's pretty easy to own that. The last thing you want is your nephew to become a millionaire and then kind of throw it in your face because you never owned cryptocurrency. So, a little exposure to cryptocurrency, not a bad thing.
Yeah, hoping my nephew takes care of me, especially if he strikes gold. What was gold? Your effort in 15 and 15. We're off the clock. Great information. Hey, we're talking market volatility ahead, but first, Tom has a great offer for you. Right now, for the first 5 callers with a portfolio of $500,000 or greater, he's offering a complimentary retirement plan just for you. This will allow Tom to sit down with you personally and provide you with a roadmap, analyzing where you are right now, and then discuss your best steps to really get ready for a successful retirement. The number to call right now is 630-491-8558. That's 630-491-8558.
We're going to go back in time to 2008 for a moment. To say that was a trying time in this country would certainly be an understatement. Tom, as we get into our conversation right now, I want to talk about that stretch of market volatility. We should have learned from it, have we?
That's a great question, Mallory. But you know what? I'm going to go back a little further if that's
Let's do it.
How about back here to 1998? That's actually when I started in this business.
Okay.
Because we're missing something in those years prior to 2008. What was that? It was the tech bubble, 2000, 2001, 2002. 3 down years, down almost 40% over that 3-year period. So if I drew a line from here to 2011, that's what you would have seen. In fact, the S&P was lower 10 years later. Now, this can be very problematic. We did have this bull run that happened for a while.
Yeah.
Of course, we had these dips. 2018 was a down year. 2022 down almost 20%. And so one of the lessons to be learned when we look at this graph, and here we are today, and where's it going to go? Is it going to do this? Is it going to do this? We don't know. Nobody knows. So I'm not saying to Ben, look, we do portfolio management. I think we do a very good job at it. And this is part, and should be part, I believe, of your retirement plan. But you've also got to be aware of what do we need to protect.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, when these things happen, and these things happen, and these things happen, what happens emotionally? We've done studies. The Dalbar study says the average investor has underperformed maybe half as much. They do half as much as the S&P.
Okay.
So again, if we have a smart and balanced portfolio, we can still participate in some of this upside, but we could be smart and strategic about it. Because I always ask the question, what's more important, up 20% or what's going to be more impactful? Up 20% or down 20%? And then how are you going to react? You know, we just have to be so careful because, again, when we're in retirement, this is where we're the most vulnerable. And the last thing we want to do is go backwards.
Protection and growth are not mutually exclusive. Tell me what people need to be aware of.
Well, that's important to say that. Protection and growth are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they can complement each other. Right? Because if I can say, again, depending on, you know, we have to do a look. Everybody's situation is unique. What type of income do you have? What is your risk tolerance and comfort level? What are your goals? But certainly, should you take a piece of that and protect it from market risk? In fact, there can be strategies out there to not only make sure the account does not go down in the market, it may even go up. So then again, from an emotional standpoint, from a successful standpoint, from having that and not, again, going backwards, that's why you can create a plan to do that. So they're not mutually exclusive. I would argue they're actually complementary.
You've seen a lot over the years. I want to talk about why it's not a great idea to take on the same risk as your neighbor.
Well, you know, again, everybody's situation is unique, and you really want to understand the market. One of the things we do, again, when we look at a chart like this, it tells us something. It tells us, yeah, the market typically over time goes up. That's great, and we want to, again, participate, especially when we're 20, 30, 40 years in retirement. We need to have some growth, right? But, you know, we just have to make sure we design a plan that is customized to our, you know, to our goals, to our objectives. So, you know, when you listen to opinions, you got to be very careful. It's pretty important to sit down. That's, again, what we do. We design it so it fits in what we're doing. And if you can stick with the investment plan, you know what? That's typically where you're the most successful.
The wrong opinions, those could cost you. Tom, thank you. And today, for our viewers, Tom has a great offer for you. Right now, for the first 5 callers with a portfolio of $500,000 or greater, he's offering a complimentary retirement plan just for you. This will allow Tom to sit down with you personally and provide you with a roadmap analyzing where you are right now and discuss your best steps to really get ready for a successful retirement. The number to call right now, 630-491-8558. Once again, that number, 630-491-8558.
Great information today. And before we go, Tom, I know you have something very special for our viewers at home.
I do. For the first 5 callers with $500,000 or more in retirement savings, give us a call. We'll do a complimentary complete retirement plan analysis.
Tom, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And that's an opportunity that should not be missed. Right now, exclusively for our viewers, Tom has a great offer for you. Right now, for the first 5 callers with a portfolio of $500,000 or greater, he's offering a complimentary retirement plan just for you.
This will allow Tom and his team to sit down with you personally and provide you with a roadmap, analyzing where you are right now and then discuss your best steps to really get ready for a successful retirement. The number to call, 630-491-8558. That's 630-491-8558.
And thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.